Okay, so there's an interesting question from Mary to Nancy. She says, do you feel most adoptive moms have narcissistic traits?
You got it
No,
right.
I don't necessarily think that at all. I think that it's harder for them to understand the child that doesn't have any genetic connection to them. And sometimes it may seem that way, but I think it has a lot to do with the child and the mother trying to understand each other when they don't really have any genetic connection. And it's really, the more I've studied people and children and their parents, the more I realize how much we get from those genetic traits that we have that are passed on and are recognized, and that we can say, okay, we really physically belong here, because maybe we wiggle our ears the same way as somebody in the family. I mean, it's just these little things, these little minute things that people do that make it seem as if we are connected in some way. And I think that that's missing. Those genetic connections are missing, and so the struggle for people that aren't related is that they don't have those little connections that they can count on to say, oh yeah, I understand that, I know that. That's something I've felt for a long time. And so there's a constant trying to understand and making things okay. So I don't necessarily see adoptive parents as being narcissistic, or birth parents or anybody else, really. I mean, I'm sure there are narcissistic people in the world, but I don't think that causes it.
Okay, and then we have a question from Angie. I'm curious to know anyone's thoughts on why there's such a resistance to adoption reform in the United States.
Yeah, I don't.
I guess.
Nancy, what do you think?
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure what the reform is that they're referring to. I mean, I think that it's important to make sure that things didn't happen the way they did really earlier in the past, where these mothers would have kept their babies if they had been given a little opportunity to. I mean, some of them were just very, very young, but not all of them were. And it just wasn't okay with the family for them to have a child out of wedlock and that kind of thing. So I do think that there should have been maybe a little more attention paid to the fact that those mothers and babies may have belonged to each other.
Oh, like original birth certificates, legally enforceable PACAs.
I think everybody has a right to know who they are. I mean, who their relatives are, where they come from. Absolutely.
Okay. Charlene is asking, can you address how the primal wound impacts abandonment issues while into adult relationships and how we can overcome that?
Oh, if I had a magic way to overcome that, I would let you know. Well, I think that's part of the, what happens when the mother and baby are separated. They both feel the loss. There's a lot of loss connected to adoption and the mother and baby being separated from each other. I mean, we watch Animal Planet, things like that. We're mammals like all those other mammals, and all those babies know who their mothers are, right? I mean, you see a whole field full of sheep, and all those little baby lammies know who their moms are, and the moms know who they are. So it's not a secret that mammals know where they feel they belong, where they came from. And I don't know what the question was now, but anyway, I just think that it's a normal thing to know, to need to know more about where you came from.
Yeah, and I think they're getting that. I know a lot of people are here from Australia, and in 2013, the Prime Minister apologized for any coerced adoptions, and then in
Mhm.
UK, that also happened this summer, right? So it's happening and things are changing in other countries. So I have hope. And
Yeah,
that's
I think we need to be more honest. Let's put it that way.
honest.
And everybody has a right to know what their ancestry is, and it isn't being in another family that you haven't been connected to. There's something about genetics that's important. And I think that if you want to know who your ancestors are and where you came from, you have a right to know that.
Okay, we have a question from Christina, who's an adoptee. She says, what are the signs of an adoptee who has started healing his or her wounds?
Started healing them.
Yes.
Well, I think they can become more comfortable with themselves and with their relationships with others. You know, wounds are always in the being healed. You know, there's never any, let's say, okay, I'm just fine now. You know, I don't have any more questions, and I don't have any more feelings of being maybe different. I mean, everybody is in a kind of a phase of healing. So, but I think when you can live with it better, when you don't always feel as if you're an outsider or whatever, that can be part of it.
Sure. Anastasia would like to talk about the addiction tendencies.
Well, addiction comes a lot of times from loss, from the feeling of loss, from the feeling of being unable to control things, you know. And of course, all adoptees have had that feeling of not being in control, because of course they weren't in control of what happened to them if they were given up by their original mothers. And it's a way of coping, not a very good way, but it's a way of trying to forget things, to not have to deal with things. And of course, I don't agree that that's a good way to do that. I think that talking about it with other people, fighting with other people, whether they're adopted or not adopted, or have some kind of, and a lot of people have these certain kinds of losses. And it can be a way to get together with other people and talk about those losses.
So you're a fan of the support groups like Adoptees Connect, and there's a bunch like Adoption Mosaic. There's lots of groups that you think that's helpful.
That's right. Yeah.
Charlene,
I think it's helpful as long as.
Go ahead, Nancy. Sorry.
I was just going to say it's helpful, but I've heard so many people say, well, the trouble is the adoptees get together and they get, you know, they talk about their adopted mother and they talk about their birth mother, and these two mothers are kind of crushed in this bad mother thing. So I don't think that's helpful, but I guess if you have to have some way to express those feelings. But you know, it's hard. The whole thing, as I say, is full of loss for everyone.
Right. And how about, I'll go back to Charlene here. She says, more specifically, how can we bring our partner into the abandonment issue so they understand us?
Well, they'll never totally understand you if they haven't had that experience themselves. I mean, there's just no way really to feel that kind of loss.
But that is what I'm hoping this film conveys. And
Yeah, I think the film covers it nicely.
I certainly think so too. But as far as someone, you know, you can't have the same experience as someone that's had a certain experience unless you've had that experience.
That's true. Yeah.
You can think about it and you can kind of say, well, yeah, that must be difficult. That must be, but You know, there are a lot of experiences. Adoptees will say the same thing. Nobody understands what it's like to be adopted, you know, and they have all kinds of things that they may say, well, you're really lucky. Look at those parents you have. Well, that has nothing to do with the feelings that an adoptee has. Absolutely nothing. So, you know, when you get to feelings, it's really difficult to ever get into someone else's feeling. A lot of people who've had to have surgeries and had to have have had certain kind of illnesses and things, you know, people will sympathize with them, but they won't really know what it's like. And in the same way as when you have loss like that.
Can I jump in for
Sure. Yeah, of course.
and I saw it throughout the film, but one thing that I think maybe gets missed in the film is at the end when the reunion story is happening and snippets of the emails between me and Jill pop up, and one of them's like, I'm not sure I want to meet. That was Jill. And I know a lot of people are like, my, you know, first mother doesn't want to meet me. And I want you all to know that that almost happened to us and kind of did for a few months. And Jill, I don't know if you want to speak to like maybe what a first mother would be going through that is hesitant to meet.
I think they're hesitant because they're gonna feel all that loss again. I think it has to do with how they think it's going to affect them. They've gone through the loss. They've gotten to a place where they can kind of deal with it because it's hard to deal with.
Yeah, I
And
think that's what Jill said to me too. It's like opening up this whole
opening
secret.
up, that's right, that wound again. And
Yeah, it takes like decades to get over keeping that secret, and it's true. But I think actually my first reaction was, how is my family going to take this? I can't tell. So it wasn't that the reluctance to share the secret. I mean, to go back to that identity that I had taken decades to shake off. It's not even so much the secret, it's the identifying yourself with that. That came second.
right.
My very first reaction was, yikes, I can't tell my family. I don't know how to move forward with this. I don't know what to do. It was just sort of a panic, like, how do I integrate this into my current life? And then it was, I don't want to have to think about being that person again. But mostly, I mean, I was completely amazed that Autumn had found me, because I also had such a low self-worth that I always assumed my child would never want to find me. I would never be lucky enough to be found. I was just, whoops, I just pulled my earmuffs out. I was just sure that I would not be the one parent that a child. Isn't that strange, you know? But
Yeah, no,
I did.
I get that. Yeah.
So all of that, it was, and then as soon as I read, I was communicating with Becky, and when I said that, and then Autumn wrote to me. We started writing directly, and as soon as I read her written voice, because I teach writing and I write a lot, you know, and I'm really attuned to people's written voices. As soon as I read it, I thought, I love her. You know, she's mine. I know her. And so there was no question then.
Oh,
Yeah. See, and those are the things that I'm talking about that they have missed too. They have missed that I know you kind of thing, you know, that you can only get from a lot of the genetics. So, yeah.
so there's a question from Teresa. Says, I am an adoptee. My first mom doesn't want to have a relationship with me. How common is that?
Well, I don't know how common it is, but I know it happens. And again, I would ask her what it is that she's, you know, sometimes it's because nobody knows that she had this baby and gave up a baby and she doesn't really want the world to know. It's kind of a secret. Or or she's afraid that she's going to start feeling again the loss that she felt in the first place. And then you have to go on to, okay, then how do you relate to each other after that? And that's something that the two of them, mother and child, have to figure out and make it work, especially with everybody else in their families. So yeah, it's a big question. And it's also helpful, I think, if you can get into a group of other people that have had that experience. And they can help you with it, yeah.
So the next question is from Katrina. How do Rebecca and Jill deal with the difficult issues in adoption therapy? Do you talk it out, or how do you deal with it?
Well, I'll let them answer that.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
I don't know. We're not in like adoption therapy together. We just like went on a road trip together to the Norwalk Film Festival. And I feel like we're closer now because we got into some.
Yeah, I guess maybe you guys could talk, you two can talk a little more about your relationship and how you're getting closer, and
yeah, I know.
And is it helpful?
I think that like spending that time together and like talking about everything under the sun and disagreeing, I don't know. For us, it hasn't led to. Sometimes adoptees are like, okay, it's good now, but you know, it's gonna end, and I'm like, what? But I know that's a lot of people's story. Like failed reunion is real and happens to so many people. And I'm not in reunion with my birth father, so I only have this relationship that's been 10 years now. January 2012, we haven't even like commemorated.
Wow, good for you.
This is our 10-year anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
There's something on here that says my battery is running low. I don't know what battery. I don't know what battery they're talking about because I have my thing plugged in.
Is it really plugged in, Nancy? Is the green light on? Maybe it's not in the wall right. But yeah, figure that out so I don't lose. But yeah, it's kind of good timing for the film to come out because I just put that together. And I don't know. I feel like the closer we get, the further away either of us are like, we're not gonna like leave each other. But that's us. And
That's huge.
everyone's different. Like Amanda Baden
Yeah.
says, it's so important to remember that we're all so varied, like everybody. So you never know what other issues people have. And I don't know what I would do. Like if I reach out to my birth father and he says no, I don't do that because I'm scared. Knowing what I know, I'm like, he might not be
Of
into
a possible rejection. Sure.
I don't want to go.
Well, it might be, but there are some of those fathers that really have always wanted to know what happened to their child. Absolutely.
I know. So I'm gonna do it, but
There's still
No, I
fear
think
around it.
Sure, yeah, sure. I don't know what to do about
devastating, right? Like the second rejection. But that's, I think, on them. It's not on us. And I don't know why the adoptee has to do so much damn work. Like we're the ones.
Yeah, I'm trying to see what this thing is saying.
Because I think that all adoptees mostly wouldn't mind getting found. I'm not speaking for all of them. I do think the majority, because a lot of birth parents are scared. They don't want to like rock the boat, but I don't know how.
Susan Thompson had a good question. She said, are there resources out there that we can refer our birth mothers to help them with the initial shock and grief associated with a reunion?
Yeah, there are some books written by birth mothers. The names escape me right now, but
I know I'm the worst part, but
I'm terrible with names sometimes.
How did you deal with that, Rebecca?
did I send you the Primal Wound, Jill? Or
I'm reading things here. Some people are writing messages.
maybe, yeah, are people saying like, okay,
Oh, okay.
Evelyn
No,
Burns?
whenever I mute myself, I
Oh yeah,
get stuck
Empower
on mute.
Alliance.
So
So
We're
I don't know.
on Instagram, I think, and they are a good resource. So
Power Alliance.
Empower Alliance,
Oh,
but
Empower Alliance.
check the chat. Adoptees on, of course. Yeah, I think all birth parents should listen to Adoptees on. Haley covers everything. It's been like 5 years, so there's tons to binge. And
Okay.
Jill and
Yeah.
I listened to Adoptees on the way to Norwalk, and we had to stop it every 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Louise Brown is in the chat too, and has the Making of Me podcast, and I think they're really good. But they're new.
I remember when I would be going back and forth in an airplane, and people say, well, what are you going to do? What are you doing? You know, and sometimes if I didn't feel like explaining very much, I'd say, oh, I'm a psychologist, and we talk about different things. But they really, if I said something about, oh, I'm going to an adoption conference, and oh, then they wanted to know all this stuff about adoption. Well, what does it do, and how does it affect people, and all this kind of thing. So people are really quite interested in it, actually. But it's
Here's
hard.
a question for you, Rebecca. Sally would like to know, are you musically inclined like your biological family?
I own a small record label.
Yeah.
Yes, but not like personally. I can play the piano, but I don't do the things. I like to encourage artists, mostly pop music. But totally,
Well,
I love theater and
Autumn, you can dance. Like,
Oh.
none of us can dance. And your dad could too. So she's got that on us.
The secret's out.
She's an amazing dancer.
Yeah. And dancing is music.
I like that. Can we quote Nancy? Somebody remember that.
Yeah, that's great. And of course, Nancy, you're getting a lot of compliments on your books and people thanking you for writing it. Let's see here. So Lynn has a question. Secrecy pervaded all involved in adoption. The 3 pillars of adoption, the government, church, and hospitals are still silent. Adoptive parents are still silent. We still have adoption laws, which give that impression that adoption is a normal part of our society. My question to Nancy is, how do we address the silence and acceptance of adoption being a part of modern life? Oh
no.
Oh no, we lost her.
I bet it was that battery.
It might have been. Do you want to try to call her?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we can maybe just get her on the phone and we'll read the question to her again.
But again, I'm hoping the movie gets to the general population. Like, it's not a movie that addresses all adoptees issues, of course. But I wanted it to like microdose the general population with like a tad of that alternate narrative.
Right.
To change things like that, like big things. I am in touch with Linnell Long, who has done this in Australia, ICAV, and she, I think, sees that possibility. You know what I mean? So hopefully, okay.
Sure. I mean, we've seen it just at the screenings that we've gone to, that people are making strides in government, church, and hospitals to change this.
Hey, Nancy. I have you on speaker.
Yeah,
can y'all hear?
My whole computer just went out.
Yeah, I thought that might happen. Is it dead?
I don't know why it did that. I mean, it's plugged in. How does the battery
I don't know.
when it's plugged in?
I don't know, but you are on speaker and people can still, I think, hear you for the most part if you want to just like do this, but while you
use the
get
phone?
it. Yeah.
Okay, I can talk on the phone.
Okay, you probably didn't hear that last question. Oh, yes.
I didn't.
I'll let you keep moderating, Jenna, but I'm
Okay. So Nancy, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So the question was, how do we address the silence and acceptance of adoption being a part of modern life?
Well, I think that okay, it's part of modern life, but it's just like everything else that's not part of an ongoing thing. I mean, for instance, one of the things we notice about other mammals, and I keep referring to this, you should watch Animal Planet really and find out about mothers and babies, mothers and children. But it's a part of modern life, but I don't think it's ever going to be called a natural part of modern life, because having families fall apart isn't really very natural. I mean, it happens a lot, so we like to call it natural because it happens a lot. But that doesn't mean that it's a natural part that doesn't have some kind of an effect on everybody involved. So I think we need to be very careful about how we treat each other in our families and realize that we have feelings, they have feelings, and we can't just cut them out because we don't always have the same feelings at the same time. And I know that there are some circumstances which really mean that people can't always be together, but it's hard. It's hard.
We have a good question, Nancy, from an Alexandra. She says, any words of wisdom for those of us who work in adoption?
Well, I would. One of the things is just to be very attuned to what's really going on with people, rather than assuming that you know. And it's a good idea to, sometimes writing is a good thing to have people do, and you can get information from what people write, because sometimes they start writing and they think they're going to write one way, but then they start listening to the inside of themselves, or the that secret part of themselves that wasn't going to tell anybody something, and they really start talking about things that they're feeling and that affect them. Another good thing to do is to have people write and also read it out loud, because sometimes people don't really realize how they felt about something until they read it out loud to somebody else, and then it really strikes them what it is they said and how it is they felt. But it's I'm not sure that I answered the question. Go back.
I think you
Yeah,
you did a good job there. Autumn, this question is for you. Your mother was hesitant to be filmed. Have you been able to watch it with her?
no, but she's watched it without me. Because I knew that what you don't see is me holding the phone like this. She's like, is that on? And I'm like, and knowing, I was like, I'm probably gonna have to cut that, but she okayed it, so it's all ethical, even though
Yeah, that was pretty powerful. I'm glad you put it into the film.
It was so good. I mean, the role of the adoptive parent.
Mm-hmm.
She just, everybody, and my childhood friend Amanda, I think she says a lot of things that you usually don't get on camera. So I was happy with the fact that they both approved that, even though my friend Amanda calls herself the villain. I think that's hilarious.
Nobody's a villain,
right? Nobody's the villain. But
it's a lot
that
of
would be
loss
a day.
Hurt, and yeah.
If I can get Martha Carroll to a screening or a Q,
oh, that'd be huge.
She will not. She does not want to be in a part of this in that way, but she asks about it. She knows when screenings are happening. So that gives me hope, I'll get her here.
Mm-hmm.
Greg has a question. I'm an LDA and I have been in therapy for many years, but without much success. Any suggestions for the type of therapy that is suited for adoption issues as an adoptee?
Well, I think dealing with the loss is an important part of it.
But with LDAs, the late discovery adoptee and betrayal I feel like that is like, how did LDAs
not
deal
being
with
told,
that, Nancy?
I know, not being told that they are adopted in an early age. Of course, they have to work through what happened to them when they found out. And was it, and betrayal is one of those that's probably going to be there. And how they respond to their adoptive parents after that. Then also listen to them and find out what it was that made them do it that way. Because honesty is the best policy, as most of us think. But
Unless
sometimes
it's an adoption. Yeah.
Well, and you wonder, did they do it because they were fooling themselves, or they thought they would fool the child, or did they just hesitate? Sometimes parents just hesitated until the kids got so old they were afraid to tell them. I think, of course, telling them between the ages of 2 and 3 is a good idea, because they don't really know what it means, but at least they've heard the word, and it may answer some questions that they may have inside themselves about feelings and things. So yeah, I think everybody has a right to know, but you have to be kind of gentle when asking, and not too accusatory.
Jill, Judy has a question for you. How do you feel about Autumn finding her birth father?
I think it would be great, and that she should, because his mom is still alive, and I think she'd be interested in knowing Autumn and Frankie Joe. And he would too. I don't know what he would do. I think she'd have to be careful because he has a family, and so just maybe offer him the knowledge that she's there, and that he has a daughter. And I mean, he knows he has a daughter, but that she's come back and that he has a granddaughter. So I would like to see that happen.
Well,
Nancy, there's a question for you. How often do adoptive parents blame the child or the genetics when things get difficult?
Well, I don't know very many adoptive parents that do that, although I know that some do. I think it's just an excuse not to take any responsibility themselves, maybe. But, and there are some traits that are passed on genetically. As I said, sometimes when you see people that you're related to, they might remind you of yourself in many ways. But usually what they're talking about are things that are not good things that are happening, not just traits. So, yeah, it's something to sit down and talk about. People keep things inside, and they just build and build and go around and around in their brains and spiral and spiral. And I think it's important to see. You might be surprised at how the other people feel and how the other people are approaching these things. So talking about these things, I think, is preferable to just letting that swirl around in your own brain.
Okay, then we have a question from Emily. She says, my narcissistic birth mother invited me to receive her support, to trust her, and then didn't follow through. I experienced something I never had before, abject terror in my heart. I couldn't shake it for a solid month. It was constant. Primal Wound enlightened me to the psychological aspect of the trauma. I realized I was experiencing the original separation trauma as I was relinquished at the hospital shortly after birth. How do I deal with the deep insensitivity for her to not even consider how belligerent that was?
Well, she probably didn't know how belligerent it was, but it'd be a good idea to talk to her about it, because, it's, the thing is that when you've had that experience once, being separated from someone that you were connected to, then that's always going to be something that you fear in some ways with other people. because as many adoptees have said, if my mother could go off and leave me, then anybody can, you know. And so it's not necessarily true that anybody would, but it's always kind of a feeling there that, you know, if your mother could do that, then anybody could. And so, as I say, communication, I think, is really important. And I don't know if sometimes people don't want to talk about things, but then they just, as I say, spiral and get out of control in other people's minds. So talking sometimes is the best way to do it. And you can write too. I think writing is sometimes preferable. But
this is why I want to do a series, because so many adoptees have
Yeah.
these stories, and I would love to get these stories out there to more people. Like, oh, yeah, people do that to each other. Like,
Right.
can you imagine? But thanks for sharing that. Who was that?
That was Emily.
Thank you, Emily.
yeah, that's important.
So we're at the, we'll have one more question from Carrie, and then we'll have to close the Q&A and go on to our raffle, so that you could get her to win a chance to have coffee with Nancy. So anyway, the next question is for Nancy. Have you heard of adoptive mothers lying about their fertility to adopt? I found out my adoptive mother didn't want to spoil her figure. Interesting.
Wow, no. I mean, gosh, I never thought of that being a reason. And I hadn't heard that before. But I don't think it happens very often, or I probably would have heard about it. That's really interesting. I guess I would kind of worry about how much the mother would tend to the child in connection, in relation to how much she has to take care of herself. You know, what are the things that she wouldn't want anybody to know about, or she wouldn't want her daughter or son to know about because of something that she fears happening to herself, or that kind of thing. So it's something to talk over. As I say, communication is a good thing. And you can communicate with different people. You can get into a group and talk about things. But I just think talking about things helps.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you all for joining us. We really appreciate it, and the support has been immense. I want to mention one more time that we are on the film festival circuit. That usually will last until autumn next year, and then hopefully we will get some distribution and get on a streaming platform, and even possibly in theaters, depending how things go with
That'd
public.
be amazing, right? We just
Yeah, that would be great. But again, your support has meant a lot to us, and the donations, really, thank you for that, because there are a lot of hefty costs with trying to get this film out to the various platforms. So now we will go to the raffle.
Nancy, do you have that information? I was gonna let Nancy do it. Or can you get back on the Zoom?
No, my computer is totally blank.
Okay.
I mean,
I think she
I don't
shared.
understand what happened when it's plugged in. What does that mean when the battery dies when it's plugged in?
Don't worry about it.
There are things I don't know about computers, you can tell.
Let me see.
Yes, so
just
I think you have the winners, Autumn,
I
don't you?
do. I'm trying to find them.
yes, we have a couple of winners.
Yeah. Do you have them up? Now I have so many emails.
Yeah, one is Jane.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Nancy's got them. Okay, ready?
Jane
This is
Sliwa or Waki, or I don't know how to pronounce her last name.
Jane. And I
And
don't know
then
if we
Lynn
should.
Williamson.
Oh, okay. And these are for. So Nancy's gonna have a Zoom coffee with Jane Slika, and since she was feeling super generous, we decided there should be another winner. And what is that other winner's name, Nancy?
Lynn Williamson.
Lynn Williamson. So if y'all are here, congratulations.
Hey,
Are Jane and Lynn here? I don't know.
Jane and Lynn.
Yay, hi. Yeah, and we can put that. Oh, can't unmute. Yeah. I know.
There's Lynn.
I can. if
Hi, she's waving.
y'all- Hey,
Yeah, I don't know what happened to my computer here. This is a pretty new computer, laptop. It's a laptop, so they get.
Now I'm unmuted. Thank you, guys.
hey, Jane.
I've got no video
Congrats.
because I'm in bed. It's Sunday morning. I'm distracted.
That's fair. But congrats. I believe we're connected somehow. So, but I'm connected with everybody on Eventbrite. And then we'll set that up. We'll do a Zoom. And then Lynn, whoops, I didn't mean to do that, Charlene. And
There's Lynn.
hey, Lynn. Also, I don't know, or either you, no, you're not in the Bay Area in California, but we'll set that up and it'll be fun. You can ask Nancy as many questions, and we'll do that individually.
Cool.
But thanks, Nancy. And then
Okay.
because the raffle's more fun with more presents, we're gonna give
Yeah,
away
yeah.
5 signed show posters.
Well, there's some. Yeah, do you want to do signed posters? I've got some names for that too.
Yeah, can y'all still hear Nancy? This is the signed show poster signed by Nancy Verrier.
And that's Lisa Berasli.
Lisa Bay Rassley. We can put these in the chat, maybe. I don't know. Yay. Okay, great. I don't know if you're here, Lisa, but I'm gonna mail you a poster.
Holly Beadle
Holly
or
Beetle.
Beadley. I never know how to pronounce last names. James Gabbard or Gabbard.
James Gabbard.
Angela Haste. Angela Haste and Jen James.
Cool. Angela Haste, Jen James.
Jen, Gen.
Awesome. What are those all Australian?
Jen, I mean Jen.
Congrats.
So,
And
so
again,
we can do something with any of those people too.
oh, what?
Oh, that's so
Nancy, just
sweet.
do an exclusive. What did you say, Nancy?
I said we can do something.
Like a Zoom?
No, with those people too. I
Yeah.
said.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that what you're offering? We'll figure that
Yeah,
out.
if they can-
You're gonna get
if
at
they
least
can-
a
if they can
poster.
if they can get near the Bay Area in California, then I would be glad to. meet
That
with
is
them
so nice.
somewhere.
Nancy's the nicest, y'all, right? Can we can't clap because we're all muted, but thank you, Nancy. That's really nice. And I
Okay.
will be emailing everybody about that. So that was the raffle, and I mean that was really fun. This was
That was.
the first time
Thank
we've
you
done this,
all.
so thanks for bearing with us. If you did have technical difficulties or know someone who did, tell them to email me.
Yeah, and the link, the
Thank you.
Vimeo link is good for the next 24 hours if you'd like to watch it again. We'll make that available to you. And then again, follow us on our website and Facebook so you can get some updates, because we might be near a film festival near you geographically, we hope. And we will announce which festivals we'll be in. And if it's close to you, we'd love to have you come out and support. And we will be doing these again later in the year if you'd like to join us again for another Q&A.
Thanks, everyone. I also recorded this, so I'll send that info out as well.
Okay, thank you from me too, everybody.
Yes.
Thanks, Nancy.
Thanks, Jill. Thanks, Jenna.
Okay.
Okay.
Have a happy new year, everyone.
Yes.
Yes.
Everyone's leaving the theater slowly.
I could end it. Should I end it?
Yeah, we can.
But I want to make sure.
Well, let's leave this up to make sure we get the chat too. Let me see if I can save that.
Yeah, I never know how, but I've heard that you can. There's got to be a way because.
Here, hold on. Let me try this. I think I just did. Hang on.
Really? And
Yeah.
also,
Well, I just copied it.
if it's recorded, does it save the chat?
I think at least I have the text. Hold on a second.
Oh, great. I don't even see any option
Okay.
to do that, but you
I'm
do.
just
so
waiting
I'm
for
just
my
gonna stop trying.
Word to open. Then I can tell you. Yes, I got it. 54 pages.
Whoa, awesome.
Okay, yeah, we're good.